Schultz, who is the Senior Vice President for ConocoPhillips Canada's Oil Sands Business Unit. And today we're going to talk about the oil sands issues in Canada. So Nick, the first question I have for you is, how do the oil sands projects with ConocoPhillips fit in the future energy needs?
Currently, we're sitting about 86 million barrels of oil per day energy demand. If you look at the forecast, that goes up to about 100 million barrels a day over the next 2 decades to 2030. So a significant energy growth over that 20-year period. The oil sands is a vast resource within Alberta, probably the biggest in the world. And so if you look at the conventional, the easy-to-get type of resource that we developed over the last 5 to 6 decades is disappearing. So we need oil sands to fill that void. And it'll be part of the energy mix. There'll be alternatives, there'll be renewables, but oil sands will be a vital component to that energy mix for decades to come.
So when you're talking about sustainability, how can you maintain sustainability in the oil sands in Canada?
We really feel like technology is a key pillar for the reliable, sustainable development of oil sands. At ConocoPhillips, we'll be investing about $300 million over the next 5 years on heavy oil technology. A majority of that expenditure is focused on oil sands.
You have young children who have traveled with you and have been with you through some of the experiences you've had. How do you explain oil sands development to them?
Oh gosh, that's a good question. And those questions do come from my oldest, who is 9 years old. I explain to them is the extraction method, and I try to go simplistic because they have seen some different photos, I think, within the school curriculums here, where you typically look at a mining situation, where we're developing the asset from within, where we use horizontal wells and are not mining it, so and extracting bitumen. And I also try to explain it to them where we're heating up water to generate steam, and then with that steam we heat up the oil to then eventually produce it to surface. So I think they take and get that.
When you talk about stakeholders or people in the community or the Aboriginal groups that you deal with, how do you explain what you're doing insofar as development?
Yeah, good question. If you look at oil sands development, our closest neighbors are Aboriginal people. And so we need to be able to articulate how our ongoing developments and our operation impact their traditional ways of life. And so we use a community consultation process that we go into these communities and are able to share with them our ongoing plans and then get their feedback. We also make it a priority to procure goods and services for our ongoing operations and development from local contractors and Aboriginal people.
What has been the biggest challenge that you've seen in doing the work that you're doing?
Yeah. I think we can boil that down in 2 challenges. One is around performance, and the other one is around communications. So let me first address performance. Again, going back to their stakeholders, they're concerned about the environmental impact that oil sands development will have on the land, the water usage, and greenhouse gas emissions. So we need to demonstrate on how to improve performance. And so again, with ConocoPhillips, we're investing $300 million over the next 5 years for heavy oil technology. Majority of that expenditure is focused on oil sands. Now with that in mind, we are also collaborating with the industry. We are one of the co-founders of OSLI, which is the Oil Sands Leadership Initiative. And these are companies that are focused on developing a step change in performance. Now that leads us to communication. We are doing a lot around environmental management. So we need to be more transparent, and we also need to engage in more dialogues with our stakeholders to showcase what we're doing around the environmental front. I think there's a lot of misinformation, and we want to utilize like the Sustainable Development Portal that we're doing here at ConocoPhillips Canada as a key information source on how we're approaching oil sands developments as well as the operational side.